We are starting the recording, and hi. My name is Matthew Kayal, and this is the Double Barrel Theater interview show. And with me, I have Katie McDonough. Hello, Katie.
Hey, how are you?
Tired. It's been a long, and technology sucks.
Technology does suck.
All right. For just to be above board all that, my relationship with Katie McDonough is that she is my cousin. So I just want to say that out loud, just so that. By the way, Katie, I'm really trying to figure out how to do interviews. Like, is there like a book that you could recommend for talking to people?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't think I ever read one on it, but I would say that a good way to learn how to do interviews is to read a lot of other people's interviews. So I don't know. I bet you're already doing that though.
Well, believe it or not, like the comic conventions like really stepped my game up in just like talking to strangers. But
Mhm.
this is the opposite challenge. It's like talking to someone you've known forever, but uh, like it's like I know you, but like in terms of like how do I put this? Well, for one, we're talking on Skype right now, so I'm looking at your profile picture,
Okay, yeah.
and the uh, like just like it's how do I put this? Like we're family. We see each
Yeah.
other at least twice a year, give or take. You there?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And like in terms of I could not tell what kind of music you listen to. Like if that was the Double Jeopardy $2,000 question, I would bet $0.
Well, maybe all those years that I had like weird colored hair, Matt, you could have been like maybe it's punk or something. I don't know. Could have
I was going to
in
say
the
Vampire Weekend, but I wasn't sure if like that would go. So
Hey, I'll take it. But honestly, too, it one of the a really good, a famously good interviewer, who works at the New Yorker now, and he used to work at Slate, is this guy Isaac Choitner. I want to say I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name right. I've never said it out loud before, but I think he is a good person to read if you want to get a sense of interview and just how interviews can kind of flow and almost be like their own narratives. I think he's pretty good at it.
well, this isn't the first time I've recorded a conversation though, but like part of the reason why I reached out to you was you like would you consider yourself a journalist?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you've done the job for as long as I've like not as long as I've known you, but pretty damn long.
Yeah, it's going on 8 years now that I've been doing this.
Okay, because like I was gonna ask you like because social media has been around for what the last 10 years.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, probably. Maybe
Well,
it feels somehow like it's always been around, but yeah, for sure, at least that long.
because one of my questions was going to be uh, like have you been around long enough that you've seen the impact of social media, or at least like from when you started to now, like what do you think the impact has been?
Yeah. So I am not but I don't think that I use social media in the way that a lot of people use it. I'm like a pretty limited person on Twitter. I don't use it a ton. I don't like engage much, but I think that it's like anything. It's been a positive development, and it's had a lot of pretty nasty consequences too. But I think that like my primary experience of social media, and I think this is mostly I don't have Facebook, so I don't use that. I have Twitter that I use sort of sparingly. And it's mostly just a way for me to encounter work by people whose work I want to follow. Like, I think that, uh, you know, there aren't a ton of, actually, there's so many news outlets that, you're not always visiting every single homepage every day to see what is up and what is new. And so I use uh, Twitter specifically as a way to make sure that I'm staying up to date on the writers and editors and podcasters whose work I like and want to see kind of what they're up to. But I think that the sort of question that you're asking about like the impact of social media on the industry, I think that like at the level of something like Facebook, I think that there's been like a clear monetary impact, and that the capacity that a lot of outlets had to make revenue off ads and things like that has been like really, really altered by things like Facebook. And also the way that people encounter news has been really, really altered by Facebook, because they have all sorts of, and again, I don't even think I'm the right person to kind of talk through this, because it's certainly not my area of expertise. But I think, yes, is that maybe kind of the area that you are curious about, is that sense of like how has sort of journalism mediated through social media changed, or what do you think?
Well, it's part of the like because the way I'm approaching these conversations I'm having with people, it's I'm trying to like figure out the question in my head, and I'm asking people that are closer to the situation than I am. So, because my first question literally was going to be, so how has the internet changed journalism? But I figured that would be a little bit too, seeing as you can't see my face right now, like you would miss that smile that I have across. So it was like, wait, is he seriously asking me like something like how did 20 years ago change?
I mean, it's funny though, but I've never done journalism that wasn't on the internet. So when I started doing this work, it was at a website, and I started working as an assistant editor at a website called Salon, and Salon didn't have a print publication. So it was only internet. So there's a version of journalism and media work that existed before me that I have no point of reference for, right? So like I could never speak to what feels different because it's just the water that I've always kind of swam in. But I work now at a magazine that has a website and a print component, so it sort of stands in those two worlds together. But I think from my understanding of how the internet's impact on everything, it's been completely kind of world shifting. That this is I think in some ways, or in the kind of best of circumstances, the objectives of what journalism is supposed to do, right, is to inform, to hold power to account, all of these things. Like those still, to me, remain the kind of core values of what we do, but the way that gets done and the kind of incentives that get built in through some of these platforms you're describing, and the internet itself, like they kind of get shaken around and distorted in some ways. So I would say it's like been like a pretty world altering wild impact. But I've never known anything before it. So it's like I don't know. It's just a funny thing to think of, that there's this entire era that I could never speak to because it was just so long gone by the time that I started doing this work.
Well, my thing is I always remember the time when I had to set the VCR if I wanted to record something at 3 a.m, or I
Yeah.
had to watch it. So, like, thank God the internet's around because I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so like you mentioned that there's a lot of shifting. I don't know. I want to say territories or whatever, because it feels like every news organization or journalism institution now, um, like I can't think of a centrist one out of the bunch. A lot of them are like for like I like Newsmax apparently is like Trump's new thing, or is that uh, because everyone was saying he was going to start a network, and then
Yeah.
you have CNN, MSNBC. Uh, that's just on TV. Then you get on the internet, and then I don't even know who's who anymore. Because like you mentioned Salon, I would imagine Salon was like a how would you describe Salon? Because uh, like I went on there a couple of times, and I was like I think I clicked on the wrong articles
Mm-hmm.
because like the my understanding of online journalism is that you have one person put in as many articles as possible to get the clicks up, so that adds up to the ad revenue, and then uh, not every single article is, shall we say, the greatest article ever written, because on forums, like, there's a term for this. It's called shit posting, and sometimes you're just like, is this person just like in a rush, or are they trolling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that so the question about Solana, I haven't read it in a number of years, so I'm not sure kind of what sort of work they're doing now, but I think when I worked there, it was a pretty liberal publication. It still likely is, but I think you're describing a trend in journalism, but also in all kinds of industries where the ability to sort of make a living and sustain itself, I think you're right. Like it can be a distorting, um, there's all kinds of bad incentives built into certain kinds of news generation, right? So if it's what you're describing of like, if it's about speed or something, or just pure volume, that obviously kind of builds in all sorts of yeah, I just keep returning to this idea of bad incentives. But, I think that the environment you're describing, like, I think actually this is a really good moment in journalism. Like, I don't encounter a lot that kind of like clickbait. I don't know, but I think that it's just a matter of, I think, a part of an educational thing too, and a funding thing. So it's this sort of two sides, which is one, I think that we need to have a better sense of like journalism. Uh, I want to call it literacy, but it's not, obvious just reading or whatever, but a sense of how to
Standard.
be, yeah, or just how to like when we're in school and all of these things as part of just like a basic civic in like education is how do you critically engage with outlets and how do you have a sense of what is uh, kinds of the way that facts, even just pure numbers alone, I think kind of setting aside the question of like news or quote, whatever you want to call it, but like things that are like maliciously distorting that try to kind of distort information or pass off false information. And we have all kinds of like ways in which that happens. But I think that even being able to see that sometimes, work that purports to kind of come from a space of neutrality is itself never neutral. Like I don't think news is ever neutral. I don't think writing is neutral. I don't think journalism is neutral. I think even though I think that the newsrooms that I've worked in and the people and institutions that I respect that do this work, I think they strive for fairness. I think that there's all kinds of ways in which they fail to do that. But part of it is having a kind of sense of critical readership that can engage on these levels and see what they do trust and what they don't trust and sort of what that kind of exchange is like. But then I think that there's the other piece, which is I think you can create good work by having like newsrooms that I think that, coming from my own perspective, like when I started working in a unionized newsroom where there were protections in place for workers, where the wages were fair, where the work standards were regulated, where there were like, diversity measures in the contract to ensure that our newsrooms look like the country that we're covering or the places, I think those are good checks on all the kinds of bad incentives that can exist in the industry. So I think it's sort of, there's both a real need to have checks on workplaces, and I think it's like funding local journalism, and so making sure that they're you can make a decent living as a reporter and that there are newsrooms in local communities that are doing the kind of, where I live in New York, like I'm incredibly grateful to publications like Gothamist or The City, or WNYC, that do really strong, thorough, detailed local reporting. But you see that newsrooms across the country like that are collapsing, right? You're getting less and less of that kind of credible local journalism that has people covering the places that they live with a lot of like care, attention, and detail. And I think those sorts of things like that, those that tends to be better journalism than I think maybe kind of what you're describing, the kind of like content email news aggregation that some people might encounter on like Facebook feed or something like that.
Well, I don't even think I grew up on the internet in such a way that I remember when it was like, this movie has a website that you can go to and see the trailer. Like, I think the first website I ever went to was batmanandrobin.com because I saw the movie poster, like, oh, we have a computer now. Like, can we get on the internet? So like the way kids get like tablets now, like I got the internet. So if that makes any sense. So like certain culture, like you see it repetitively. It's like the internet is the greatest mirror of human nature of all time, as far as I'm concerned. But the what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? The like one of the questions I was wondering is if we just had like a news channel that had shall we say half the screen is a scroll that just like Star Wars on repeat, like the biggest news stories of the day, like in order of like what would be the most important or whatever, and then in the top right corner there's an ad for Manscaped or Tuck It In shirts or whatever, and then the in the other corner there was a countdown to every important news story or interview on the hour, so that instead of are you on a motorcycle right now?
I'm just, I think someone's cruising by my apartment in a motorcycle. So the sounds of the city.
Okay. Because I'm like the idea I had years ago, like if you ever wanted to fix the media, all you had to do is just find a way to take the money out of it, and then, but until someone left Jeff Bezos is going to put $1 trillion into like a nonprofit news network or something, that's just going to be like or I'm trying to think like what organizations like only report the facts. Like there's no punditry, there's no uh it's like are you familiar with KFAB at all?
I'm not, but I do. I think your instinct around taking money out of news is a really good one. I think that nonprofit news is a strong model, but I also want to just sort of push back a little bit on the idea of like just the facts, because I actually think that good reporting. Sorry, that motorcycle appears to be back, but good reporting doesn't just give you factual information, because factual information can be delivered all kinds of ways to all sorts of ends. But so
Oh, you want to know my
I
favorite
think
one
that,
is on that one?
yeah, tell me, yeah.
Okay, so this kid goes to school and says, uh, there's dihyd di dihydroxide dihyd 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen chemical in the water, or no, in schools. It's like dihydroxyoxide. That's the word. Dihydroxyoxide in the schools. It can cause death in certain amounts, and um, like it can cause damage to buildings if left unchecked. Do you want to get rid of the dihydroxyoxide in the schools? And everyone was like, "Yeah, that sounds dangerous. That's like, what are we doing about this?" The kid was like, "No, it's water, you idiot. Like you drink it every day. It's you can drown in it, but you have to be submerged in it to drown in it." And it was just like this. Like it's sort of like a like if you talk in a certain way, in a way that people don't normally talk, um, it was completely factual what the kid did, but
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is like you're trying like it was like it was like the like
Well, it's
one
the
of my
framing and context or lack of context. There's all kinds of all the ingredients that you put into a story to hopefully make it feel as representative and big picture and full picture as you can. Like that's really what I think the like the responsibility is. But then I also think too, like, so where I work, we talk about things at the level of impact. And so what I cover politics, but there's a certain kind of coverage that again can be like fully factual, to be like, so and so said this thing or pledged that their proposal for stimulus would include X amount of dollars or whatever. But I think then the kinds of details that you choose to pull into a story like that will make it either more or less useful for the average reader to understand what it would mean in their daily lives or for their neighbor's life or for someone who has really wildly different circumstances for them than them and what it would mean for them, you know? And so I think that, like, I don't know, like, I don't know that there's like so I think what you're describing, the kind of joke about water is a good one here, because I think that there's all kinds of ways in which the news is delivered, even from very reputable news organizations that are delivering factual things. They are quoting people accurately, but the sort of narrowness with which they approach the story or the people they choose to interview, or there are all kinds of things that kind of will, and now a siren is coming by my apartment, so it's noisy again.
Yeah, no
But like,
worries.
there are all kinds of things that
As
that
long as
will
it's
like
not coming to your apartment, it's all good.
yeah, exactly. Thankfully, not tonight. But yeah, there's all kinds of choices that writers, editors, publications can make that will like create the window through which the reader is going to encounter an idea. And I think that those are like, that's where I think that the critical readership part, and then too, this bigger thing than even just learning how to like read the news or engage with the news is like a real sense of like civic and social education of like, who are we to each other and what do people deserve and all of these sorts of things about like thinking about your community and what you want it to look like and what you want. I don't know, just there's like a pull in all of this, I think, like from the
Well,
reader and the person producing the media.
well, like the two of the things that always, or one of the two, like, have you ever listened to like sports media?
Not a ton, I have to say.
I had a feeling you didn't, but like I was just throwing it out there in case. The two of the things that like really helped me out understanding businesses and politics, because you got to look at it like vaccines or whatever. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a very deadly virus or something that's hard to stop, you just need a vaccine or whatever that mimics the virus, but it's like lower stakes. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not as like because like if you want to understand politics, you got to understand professional wrestling and you got to understand sports. Like because the what I figure is when people are talking about teams and like why teams make decisions, like football, for example, you have a set amount of cap room, which is the budget that you can work with on the team. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you have to make decisions about what running back to get, what offensive line, where to put your money into to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear about like contract negotiations because the player knows he's more valuable than what he's paying for being paid. Like he has options, but he has to go about things in a certain way. So if you listen to sports over time, like you just like understand like business principles and power and all that stuff. Then you go to professional wrestling, like like the what I was asking about before is called KFAP, where everybody knows it's fake. Everyone like I don't want to break anybody's heart here, but professional wrestling is super fake. However, professional wrestling, like you have these real athletes doing this real show, and the fans know it's fake and they still enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, but that's again too, where like, I mean, I think it's a really, yeah, I think you're right. There's so much in politics that's spectacle, but like, again, at the level of like, and this is where so many choices that people make about coverage and what they choose to focus on or emphasize, like dictate so much. But like, so my understanding of politics is like this really small p thing that's about like the level of impact, and like rather than the kind of people as like center, like, because I think what you're describing is totally true, and like about like, oh, like they, like horse race coverage or whatever in politics about like who's up or who's down, or very personality driven thing. But like fundamentally what I'm interested in, and what like I think good coverage does, is sort of anchors the reader in a sense of what is the policy, or what is this person's vision, or what is this person's, okay, so here is X issue and what is this person going to do, right? Like I'm interested to see how
Mm-hmm.
places will be covering the like next mayoral election in the city, and because we have so many huge issues facing it, um, in this recession because of the pandemic and all of these things, that like, again, like those, the questions that are going to most tease out the person, like the information that I want about how I'm going to vote or how I'm going to make decisions, is going to be based on, well, what does this person plan to do on X issue? And what is their vision for what education should look like? Or these sorts of like more concretes. And so there's no real way to kind of do that in a personality way, because it's so just fundamentally about the other stuff, right? And I think that like
Mm,
good coverage, I mean, yeah, like there's a personality aspect to whether someone can be compelling and delivering their vision and all of that, but like fundamental media that tends to overly focus on the person's as like as if they were like a character in a movie, as opposed to someone who's like in an elected capacity supposed to be doing X thing. Like that's where my
yeah.
interest is what is the X thing that they're gonna do.
Well, like, like this is gonna be one of those Instagram like stories that everyone has, but like writing is magic. That's why you spell it. Um, the the magic trick of journalism to me has always been um, like what you're talking about is um, taking the the goings ons, the in and outs of what's happening, and making it understandable to the person that's reading it.
Mm-hmm.
But that you get into this problem though, in that uh, like imagine if like the level of magic in the world was the guy that says he grabbed your nose, but he really just put his thumb like between his two fingers. Like
Mm-hmm.
like if that was the only amount of talent that people had for journalism, everybody would go insane because it would be useless. Like it would work for like 5 seconds, and then all the 1 year olds would grow up, and then so uh, like like you're right that we need better magicians.
Well, yeah, because I also think that there's a way to do that kind of writing that's really beautiful and engaging and like has a real art to it. I think that they're like reading these things and finding and learning about, you know, your like, yeah, whether it's like local governance or movements or issues that you've never experienced personally, but that you're concerned about or curious about or whatever. Like, I think that good writing does these things in a way that like is can be pleasurable, even if the stories are difficult, even if they're, all these things. Like, so, on the level of the magicians, like I think too, the sense of making it a livable job, like giving, I don't know, like making sure that like the wages and the conditions that people creating this work and doing this reporting, that these are like decent livable jobs, so that you can spend time on things like craft and thinking about how is the most, like, how do I make sure that this feels like accessible to a reader? How do I like break down some of the like what feels like a fog that might be keeping people from fully understanding this without losing any of the specificity or the nuance of what the issue is. Like that stuff's really like it can feel like pulling off a magic trick to when you kind of synthesize all that together. But I know a lot of it's already happening, right? A lot of great work already does this. It's just like, how do you expand the really good work and grow it and make it so that more people can participate in doing it. But like right now, yeah, I think as you were kind of alluding to with the way that questions about social media and stuff, like the industry is hurting, and both because of these like bigger factors about around Facebook, but also because of just the way that newsrooms have conducted themselves for the last, decade on. And that it can be, it can feel rare when you see that stuff, but I think it's happening all the time. There's really great work being produced every day.
There definitely is. I mean, the like I'm not going to say this is the greatest example of like good journalism going on, but do you follow Phil DeFranco on YouTube at all?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so I was made aware of him like 10 years ago, but like he's still plugging along. I think he does like 4 videos a day, give or take, of just like the news, what it means, like who does it affect, and it could be anything from like entertainment news to well, given this past month, like a lot of news outlets have been covering the election, and like uh, he presents an interesting model because his business model is I'm going to do the news. I'm going to sell merch that's for my fans of like things I say, and I'm going to just do a million things. And that like I think he has like a small network with his YouTube channel. But like I was curious, like do you see that as like one of the futures where it's like instead of news organizations, we just have like super journalists that are like self-funded to
Yeah, so I've never heard of the person you're describing, but I really like newsrooms as spaces of collaboration where there are like nice, because it's like no one person. So I think about this as myself as an editor. I'm like really grateful to have colleagues and the writers that I work with that there's like multiple forces coming together on tightening up a story, and there's fact checkers that come into the process. And so like I think work that for me at least the strongest work comes out of a sense of a robust newsroom and strong collaboration and like multiple levels of making sure that like the story that you're about to put out does its subject justice and is as tight and accurate as it can be. And I think that kind of stuff really does require like the infrastructure of a newsroom. And so I think that, there's some journalists that I know are going to a newsletter publication right now. And I think there's still a lot of good work that can happen about people who are kind of moving into more independent spaces. But like, for like my vision for the future of journalism, it's not so much just sort of people working as these kind of like one man or one woman or one person projects, even if
trust me,
they have it.
like I don't even think that's possible. Like like the even like the guy I just told you about, he has about 10 people under him that I would imagine have like a similar role as to like the team that you're describing.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah,
like
I
it's
just
like
think, yeah.
I wouldn't tell you about him if he was just like some vlogger that just reads the news and good night and good luck's it. But the
Yeah.
so your time is coming up that you mentioned. So like I want to do like a couple like fast like you don't really have to put too much effort into it. Lightning round questions.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. Like what is the journalist watering hole? It like if there was like a spot where I need to find journalists, like where am I going to find journalists?
I don't know. I don't think there's one. I think you'll find, Matt, that we go many places. We'll kind of go anywhere. But right now, sadly, the journalist watering hole is mostly just alone in our apartments because the pandemic has made that harder.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's no like peach pit kind of. There's like a,
There's no
just
secret bar that you guys all meet at.
there's no secret bar. There's some favorites, but
Well,
I
if you
think
told me
you
about it,
talk
it wouldn't be
to
a
10
secret.
journalists. Yeah, talk to 10 journalists, and I'm sure you'll get 10 different favorite bars. But yeah.
Okay. Like you don't have to throw any shade or whatever, but like rank the following levels of like journalist. You have your Twitter commentator, your blogger, your YouTube vlogger, the guy who writes at the local paper, uh, the and Wolf Blitzer. Like, which one? Like, it is the guy that like you respect the most.
I think that there's ways. I don't know. I don't know that much about Wolf Blitzer's work. I can't speak to him specifically. I think there's probably a real art and a real elevated version of every single one of the things you're describing. But I would say that because it's so under threat right now, the local reporter is going to have to get my backing right now, just because we need more of them.
Okay, so um, I was going to ask you an Adderall question, but I'm not going to ask you that one. Like somebody on Rogan once said that like every journalist is on Adderall, and like I want to say, like from your experience, is that like true or false?
I don't know. I'm not on Adderall, so I can only speak for
I
myself.
can't imagine you on Adderall.
Really? Why?
Well, no, because uh, when you're being like conversational, like you're very
Mhm.
engaged or whatever. Like so, like either you more focused or like focused to the point of like manic. Like I can't see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it would be like.
Okay. Let's see what else. What else? What else? Um, where can people find you at for your work?
Oh yeah. I I work at the New Republic, and I think we're a good magazine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, this it was nice to chat with you. I'm sure that once the vaccine's rolled out, we'll all be able to actually see each other in person again.